For the past 30 years, GST has basically bedevilled Australian politics, you know, in quite damaging ways. And what it's taught politicians, I think, is that even though everyone knows and various parties have supported GST at various times over the past 30 years, it's been the subject of cynical non-belief politics, if you like. I mean, everyone knows that it's the right thing to do to either have or increase the GST, but, you know, it's just been opposed for cynical political reasons quite successfully. So everyone's figured out that that's a good thing to do.
I suppose we're seeing more of that now than ever before with the, you know, the state of the Senate at the present.
Well, that's true, and you know, I mean, most of the big reforms in the 80s got through because the major parties both supported it. So, you know, whether or not the minor parties controlled the Senate didn't matter. That is no longer possible because, you know, whatever is proposed, whether it's a good idea or not, will be opposed by the other side. And so, you know, yes, then it comes down to minor parties, you know, which are driven by a whole range of propositions. But look, the essential point is that the cost of running the government is increasing very rapidly, like at double-digit numbers. There has to be increase in revenue to pay for it. As the Asprey Committee and then Keating pointed out all those years ago, it's very, very difficult to collect high rates of personal income tax, either personal income tax or corporate tax now, with Google and Facebook and so on easily avoiding tax. So income tax is becoming more and more difficult to raise. We have to tax consumption. You know, and I mean, I'm not in favour of that. I much prefer income taxes because they're progressive. Rich people pay more. Consumption tax is the same for everybody, therefore it is more proportionally on poor people. But look, it's just you know, you have to deal with reality.
And I suppose this is going to be one of the big dynamics this year politically, is trying to deal with this structural deficit. And when you look at it in the harsh, cold light, Abbott government's really got nothing to lose here because it's not exactly doing them any political favours to explain away these growing deficits. So do you think they really just need to bite the bullet, even though it's politically unpopular, to try and broaden or raise the GST and just deal with this issue now?
Well, yes, but I'm saying that that's going to be almost impossible because, you know, they've said, and they will go to an election in the way that Howard did in 1998, went to an election saying that he would do a GST. So the election became a referendum on the GST in 1998. That will have to happen again in 2016. And, you know, the only reason that the coalition won in 1998 was because it was the first term. The only reason they won in 2001, having introduced the GST, was because of Tampa and the 9/11 attacks in September of that year. So, you know, a good chance that if they do go to the election promising a GST in 2016, they'll lose. Still no satisfaction, and that's you know, 18 months away as well. So really, they've got to do something. I mean, and the other thing worth pointing out is that the big change in the budget forecast between Labor and the coalition is that the Labor forecasts included fiscal drag, which is the way that you know, increasing wages with inflation takes people up into higher tax brackets, right? And so the first thing that happened was that the new government's forecasts excluded fiscal drag. So all of a sudden we've got a horrendous deficit as a result of that. So the government has proposed, and the Commission of Audit by Tony Shepherd reinforced this, that we should not include fiscal drag, which is an increase in income taxes.
Bracket creep.
Bracket creep. But that's how you increase income taxes without increasing income taxes, if you know what I mean. And so they've said we're not going to do that. Fine. And I agree. You shouldn't really do that. It's a disincentive to work, and it's, you know, it's all bad. But it really focuses further more on the need for consumption taxes. But, you know, they can't get it through. I think they're stuck. It's a real problem.
Is there any politically feasible way of trying to generate some revenue in the meantime? Because if these figures keep blowing out, it's just going to be political poison for this party. I mean, is targeting company tax and trying to capture more of that a possibility? Is there something else they can try in the meantime?
I've got an idea. Carbon tax. That was going to raise a lot of money. But, so we can't have that now. There was a mining tax, which was the super tax on the mining companies. big profits. Can't have that anymore.
It's a difficult situation for them. 2015 looks like a tough one. It's going to be interesting to watch.
That'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. Thanks very much, Alan.